Hello, guys. So we got another video. Um, Now, one today, it's going around, well, our 119, I like to call it, as it's the 1.6 with the 116 with the 1.9 displacement. We have done an intake manifold for it, and we tested today the intake manifold. We had in the past tried the old version we used to have on the car quite a long time ago, but it was made for a different head, not for the same head. So the runner length was a bit too short, the cross-sectional area of the runner was a bit too big. It was a bit of a mismatch for the application. So it was made for an engine that had the plans of revving really high, but like I never really looked at port speed the way I do nowadays. So this was almost 2 years ago. So things have changed since. There's a lot things we've changed, like that we've learned with time to improve the drivability or our car feels. So we tested today, and like when I designed manifold, it's I didn't want to lose a lot of torque. So ideally, I wanted to keep the same torque, which is very hard, but it's possible, and then still gain at the top end. So we tested, and the thing is, manifold is not quite made for the combo that is on the 1 Series at the moment. It's made for something that has a bigger head than what the car has at the moment, and a bigger cam as well. But it still works well on where it is, like we haven't, in average numbers, we haven't had minus in any way, shape or form, but it lost some, but didn't lose a lot. So now this is the problem, because you guys cannot see what I'm looking at. And now I got the screen, the dyno screen, right in front of my eyes. I got two laptops with me today because I got a new laptop because my other one kept on crashing, so I had to buy a new one. And I started using it today, so I have both one beside the other with the dyno software installed. Everything is working as it should. So this is it. Now, we were making before, like as you guys might know, or some of you will not know because you're going to be new to us or to see the project, because everything is on Instagram, nothing else is on anywhere else. If you don't have an Instagram account, you would not really see it. So on the stock intake manifold, we had it was 149, or let's call it 150 bhp at the wheels, and we had a peak torque of 169 foot-pounds of torque. This was dynoed this morning, before and after, because just for consistency, I've dynoed the car before. It had the same numbers, but I rather, if I can, dyno it on the same day, so I have a direct comparison to what it was and to make sure it's right. It's just I don't want to have a variation because the weather is different. It's colder, it's hotter, whatever. Dyno corrects most of it. One thing dyno doesn't correct, it's humidity on the correction factors we have. But like today was not too humid. I can tell you like what it was. Because if it is very humid, it generally loses quite a lot of power. Like it was still a bit humid, but it was not like last week was really bad. It was over 90. Today was just 84.5. And the atmospheric pressure was also a bit low, but the dyno corrects that factor anyway. Temperature was very warm at an amazing 2.8 degrees, and this is on the area that is the hottest. It's where the car is running on the dyno. Outside it was -1 today. So we had the 169 foot-pounds of torque peak, 150 bhp at the wheels on the standard intake. And the thing I hated on the standard intake is the way the torque really goes down towards the top end. So once you go past 5, it just starts going down really, really quickly, you know. So just to put things into perspective, now this is the torque at wheels. At 5.3, it has 100 and so I got 2 tests open. Let me just take one of them off. Okay, here we are. So at 5.2, or let's say at 5,000 RPM, make it a square number, we got 150 foot-pounds at wheels. At 6.5, we got 118. So you can see the way the line drops. It drops in 1500 RPM. It goes from 150 to 118. So we're talking at 32 foot-pound drop in 1500 RPM. So you can see how quickly the torque drops. The one with the manifold we have now, it also drops from, but starts dropping slightly later. Now it drops at, just a second, okay, starts dropping torque at, sorry guys, I'm trying to, this is not easy. So starts dropping, well, it has such a more clean line towards the top. It's hard to see when it really starts dropping properly, but I would say it starts dropping at a faster pace, over 6,000 now. So we gain from 5.4 to 5.9. Before it used to go from 145 foot-pounds to at 6,000 being at 129. So you can see like it's 11 foot-pounds dropped in 500 RPM. So now it starts same number of torque, the 145, but at 6,000 it still is at 139. So it's dropping very much slower. Now this used to happen because of the massive restriction. There was the standard intake. It doesn't flow that much, so it cannot really make that much power. Now the thing about it is, as we have the car now, we now double the power at wheels comparing to a standard car. Standard car, they do just over 80 bhp at wheels. We now at 160 bhp at wheels, which is double of what they have standard at two wheels. Is for sure very different. Now the thing is, we have lost some torque, and I'm going to look at torque at wheels again. We have lost, like on peak torque, you know, we lost like the biggest difference we have. It's exactly on peak torque. Yeah, but I think with some vanos work, I can reduce this difference. I haven't spent much time setting vanos up because there's other things I want to do before I do that. But in here, it's where we have the biggest difference, and we got 8 foot-pounds less. But it's on an area of RPM that it's not that relevant, and the car at that RPM only loses 5 bhp. It's quite low. It's at 4,000 RPM, so it's not like you're really going to feel it. You surely would feel the car is not as crisp pulling from down low, but it is quite a big gain on the other side of the scope. So the thing is, they follow the same line. They meet up at 4.7. From 4.7 onwards, when they meet up, then the standard intake one cannot keep up at all with the new intake it has. We extended the RPM a bit, but there was no need for it because then the cam it's not really working anymore. You know, it just starts dropping. Like, it doesn't drop the power as much, but the torque, you know, starts going down, and it's it just doesn't really gain anything. But at 6,000 now with the new intake, we got the difference of 12 bhp at wheels. Then that difference stays the same. Like from it goes at they make the same power at 5.4. From 5.4 onwards, the new intake just stays on the climbing side, and then it only just starts dropping over 6.4. But from 6.4 to 7.5, which is those 1,000 RPM, it goes from 159 to 155. So it doesn't really drop a lot of power. So which means you can keep it in that gear for that time, because it still is pulling with the same, still is willing to go fast. But we're going to dial it back to the same rev limiter we had, because we don't like to rev higher than like it stops making power. We give it usually another 500 RPM and put the limiter on. And this is the way we usually work. Now, what we've done with this manifold, as I said to some people, we have put some serious time into it, thinking and designing it. And the manifold, it was conceived not to be on this head. So this is one of the reasons why we lost some torque. It's to be on the head that has bigger valves and different intake port. So it's made to go on minimum V3 head. It's now on a V1, so it's not quite ideal for the port the engine has. Now, the thing is, I'm about to do another manifold, but I'm going to do with the same length, but a smaller cross-sectional area. So I know if I recover the little bit of torque, which is not a lot, like as I told you guys, like it's not really. You guys can go on my Instagram and see the difference is not that noticeable, is not huge. But I can regain that. And then if I regain that, I know it will make more power. At the moment, the car is sitting at just over 190 bhp. It's 160 at the wheels, which equates to, give me a second. It's around 195 bhp. So 193 to 195, somewhere there. My dyno calculates loss, but I've noticed one thing. When I have the wheels I have on the car at the moment, it doesn't quite calculate it right. I don't know if it's because the wheels are too light or whatever it is. I know it has to be like on the original wheel size for some reason to show the right power number. The power at the wheel doesn't change, but when it calculates the loss, it just doesn't calculate it the same way. I found this because I dynoed the car in the beginning when I just finished fitting the engine. Then I dynoed it again to do another check, and all of a sudden the car lost power at the flywheel, and I couldn't understand why. The power at wheels was the same, but it was less at the flywheel. Then I went to see the losses, and for some reason it was reading less losses with these wheels, but at the same time it's not putting any more power on the wheel, it's very strange. So this is why I rather just use the formula I usually work to get the results, to see the power I have. There's a formula you use. It's not like a percentage. It's not a fixed percentage. It is, but it has a formula other than just timing the power, by a certain percentage. So this is the way we are doing it in here. On the ones that use the original wheels, they're always good. They always read well. And just to put into perspective, it's a rear-wheel drive car, and is showing less power loss than most front-wheel drive cars I have a dyno here. So you see that's something definitely not right, but only does it on these wheel tire combination. But I don't want to change the tire combination every time I go on the dyno, because I do spend quite a lot of time on the dyno, and it's not practical for me to be changing wheels all the time. But now going back to where we were on the intakes, I tested as well on our Cosmo one, the standard intake versus the manifold we had made for the previous version of the engine that we had developed. And one thing I didn't like on it was the fact that the car lost a lot of torque. This is not practical, but I got the other laptop here with this on. So this is going to look very unprofessional, but I'm not a YouTuber. I do this so you guys keep informed, and it's easier for me to explain what's done. So you guys can see this is top notch, like what? So, so as you guys can understand, this is the original torque line, and this is what it done with the other manifold. There is a massive loss before it actually gains anything. And I know why this has happened, and this is why I designed this new manifold. This, you got the difference. The car went from 171 foot-pounds, this was on the 2-liter version of the engine, to 158 foot-pounds. It's a huge loss in peak torque. And when you see the averages from, even in power, but this is worth, it's not, there are ways to balance things. On these engines, it couldn't happen. Now, on this one, what makes it even worse is the fact that the one that makes the more peak power is the one that has less average power. And this is the thing. So this is what I keep on saying to people. Don't look at peak numbers, look at average numbers. Most people that do dyno runs, they don't bother with average numbers. It made more peak power, quality, that's it, done. More power. I don't like to work like that. I work on the average number because that's what really says how much faster your car is going to be. And I'm going to increase this 6.5 is where the rev limiter should be on it. Just a second, and I'll tell you exactly the numbers. 6.5, okay, all right. So from 3 to 6.5, the average torque on this engine was 160 on the stock intake, and then with the other intake, it went down to 150 foot-pounds. As a consequence of this, the average power went from 126 to 120. You see, more peak power, but less average, which means the car will be slower. That's pure and simple. So it's one of those. I've done this just to show to people like with what actually does when you just look at peak numbers. You think, wow, it makes more power, yeah, but it's slower. And people will not understand why it's slower. On this one, this manifold I've done, we got average numbers that are very similar. So let me put it on. From if I put on the same range, so it's very comparable. 6,000. And now in here, you will see there was no loss between this range, on this range. So we went from an average power on the stock intake of 129 and an average torque on the stock intake of 160. Average power used to be, is now 130, so we gain 1 bhp average between 3 to 6, okay, or 6.5. And we got slightly less average torque by 3 foot-pounds less. But when you compare, like before, it used to have 10 foot-pounds less. Now we got 3 foot-pounds less in average. Before it was 6 bhp less in average, and now we have 1 bhp more in average. And this is, as I said, from 3 to 6.5. Now, where you usually use the car, like when you're driving it properly, usually rev to from 5 to 6.5 on this case. And in here, it's where everything changes. So now, at this point, the average power went from 147 to 153, and the average torque went from 144 to 154 to 155. It's a gain, and the thing is, the later I put this, the more it gets from the other manifold. While before, it's not quite like that. So before, only after 5.9, it's when they used to meet the lines at 5.9, while now the lines meet, as I said earlier, at 4.6. And below that, the gain is very minimal. Please go and check on Instagram the pictures of this dyno printout, and you can actually relate to it and understand. Now, Sigma said something. If I remember, the M50 manifold also has less torque in the lows. It does, and it's exactly for the same reason. It has the thing is behind the manifold there's a science, and the manifold has less cross-sectional area. So the M52 one, that increases the speed the air travels through, and therefore that improves torque. It is possible, though, to make the power the M50 manifold makes with the torque of the M52. It is possible to do. All you have to do is work on a way that is not restricting the flow. You see, so you have to see like the best way to do the test in CFM. It's bolt manifold on the head with everything attached to it, and then check how much CFM do you actually have getting to the cylinder, and then you can calculate and see the maximum power you will see out of that combination. Testing the CFM of a manifold on its own, it's different. It's not the same as when it's bolted on the head. Not only manifold, ITV, you name it. You know, from the moment you change you put something in front of an area, there's more friction. There's quite a lot happens inside the tube, even if it flows really well and it's exactly the same size. You got to think you're going to generate friction on a longer place, on a longer area. So therefore, the CFM is going to drop. There's nothing you can do. It's the normal friction between the air and the walls. I heard Alpine intake was kind of the best of both worlds. I'm wondering where people get them. I do have an Alpine manifold, and it is the best of both worlds. This is why I said to you, it's possible. It's not. I don't think Alpine manifold is the best of both worlds. The Alpine manifold is even better than the M50 manifold. It makes the same torque down low as an M52 manifold. It has a mid-range of an M50, and then it has a top end of the Alpina manifold. It's stronger top end than the M50 manifold as well. M50 manifold isn't that good. It is better than the M52, but it isn't great. You know, there's a few design flaws on it that don't work in any favor of the engine in order for it to produce performance. People use it as an upgrade, but then you have to look like and see the things. It's still, you bolt an M50 manifold to a 2.8, and usually they make around tuned, like mapped already, they make around 220 to 30 bhp. It's not like it's a 2.8 with 230 bhp, and this is not that great. I'll tell you how much power per liter that is. So that is 82 bhp per liter, and in my eyes, this is not really impressive. I'll give you a good example. If you have the ones I've done loads of them, and there's a lot of people now that have our intakes, they know the difference. If you go, for example, to a 4-cylinder M44 and you put one of our manifolds on it, or ITBs, what you usually see is they make, just with the manifold and the tune, they make around 170 bhp. So if you go 170, but they're only 1.9, it's 89 bhp per liter, and it's a big difference in bhp per liter. So it's better, it's a more efficient manifold. Like the the thing is, this is the way to look at things. Is I said on another video, you look at the the specific power per liter. This is what tells you how good the engine is, you know. And like as I said before, the thing about 2.8 that doesn't impress me is people that tune them. They don't. I very rarely see something that really catches my eye. You know, it's one of those. So it's it's what it is. So going back to it, this intake science, it's something that I studied quite deep. You know, I went really into a lot of detail in order to start seeing the gains I did see with intakes. And the more time I spend with it, the more intakes I do, the more I test, the more I see, and the more I understand what does what. You know, and the result of today, genuinely, I was not super happy with it. I'm happy, you know, cannot complain. 10 BHP at wheels gain, but it's just the fact that I would like to see a little bit more gain. But I guess like I'm really on the limit of what I can do with the cams I have and the head I have. You know, like it's I could probably get more if I had a more aggressive cam, more duration, but I don't. So it's one of those, you know, trying to get the most out of it when you don't have a cam that allows you to flow what you need to flow. On the other hand, the extra 10 bhp it gained, the car is going to feel completely different to drive because the car used to feel almost like a diesel. It's a lot of torque. It was the car has peak torque at 4100 RPM, and it's a really early place to have peak torque. You know, it's crazy. And then from 4100 RPM onwards, it just used to go down. So peak torque at 41 exactly, 4109 peak torque. Then it stays flat almost. At 5000, it has still 167 foot-pounds, and from around 5.1, it just goes and starts going down big time. So again, at 5.3, there are 163 foot-pounds. At 6.3, there are 142 foot-pounds. So you see the line just goes, and this was the intake killing it. Now, peak torque now still is early, but it's later than what it used to be, which is fine. But it's not that much later. It's at it moves basically 300 RPM forward. I don't mind having the peak torque at a later stage. It's better. We don't need all that torque at that RPM. Like this is a thing like for people that really like to drive at low RPM, which is not the case, or most people case when they have cars that they like to drive on a more spirited manner. Maybe this is a bit of an uncomfortable question, but if I was to put your intake and manifold on standalone with still pass emissions, I believe emission controls in EU are the same. You see, this is the intake manifold doesn't affect emissions in any way, shape, or form. It just it gives you more power. Like if you bolted cams on it, I would say no, it will not pass. Of course, depending on the cams and the way you time them. The intake manifold itself will not make you lose any like how you call it, like it will not affect emissions at all. It's nothing to do with the valve events. Like things like exhaust and cams are what's going to affect your emissions. Okay, not an intake manifold. You got to remember the intake manifold only has a better breathing ability, so it just unrestricts the engine. It just lets the engine breathe. It's not like you bolt it on and all of a sudden the emissions are gone. No, like when you are testing emissions, the idle is the same. Everything is the same. Like it just you will have more power. And when you compare our intake to the stock intake, it's like they are similar. up to around 5,000 RPM. From 5,000 RPM, this intake, it really takes off, and then the standard intake just starts going down, all because of flow restrictions that our intake doesn't have. And as I said, like our intakes are still made to have drivability, so the car still is very drivable, you know. So that is the thing. Do you have any of your clients bringing the car for MOT after the cams and head port? Again, head port will not affect emissions. Cams will. But as I said, you can make it legal still by dialing the cams differently. You know, all you have to do is reduce the overlap, and if you reduce the overlap, you will have idle quality again. So let's say once a year, you have to tune the cams to go and pass emissions. It's fine, it's easy to do. Advancing. There is, yeah, I spoke about it before, but the problem is you lose quite a, like, not quite a bit, you lose some torque down low, you'll feel the car becomes more sluggish. And the problem is M42 is usually already sluggish down on the lower RPM. M40, one of the biggest differences between an M42 to an M44 when they are stock is the M44. It's stronger mid-range. It's always stronger mid-range than the M40 than the M42. Top end they are very similar, but down low they are, you know, it's not quite the same. You prefer torque? You got the wrong engine. So yeah, that's the thing. You have to see like what engines you what engine does what and what is what anyway. So sorry guys, I'm just searching for something to try to bring it up. So someone just commented on one of my posts on Instagram asking, like, we just tuned the car today. We were doing remote tuning on an M42 abroad, and someone just I posted on Instagram, and the guy asked, "Is it still safe?" Like, tuning a car, if it's done right, it's always safe. It's just one of those things that people, like, there's a big misconception, like it's not safe to do this, that, the other. The only thing that is not safe to do is to tune a car wrongly. That's what's not safe to do. It's just to start adding more, like, ignition, be silly on ignition, fuel. And I really loved people that has a misconception that the more fuel you put on, the more power it makes. You know, I've seen on dyno far too often that it's never the case. Never the case. So if you run an engine on a mixture of, let's say, they usually come out of the factory running at a 12.5 to 12 AFR. If you put them down to, let's say, like 12 or 11.5, the power just drops down like a lead balloon. And the thing is with this is I believe I said this before, but it was now YouTube. There's a scientific study done in the States in regards to the fuel mixture and the effect it has on torque. Like, you have to look at torque, not power, because the higher the torque, the more the power is going to be. And it says that I found that it was on an old, I would call it an old document. And up to 5,500 RPM, it makes a greater difference than from there onwards. Okay, so this is the way you have to see it. So then from there, you can work out the best fuel mixture to have on the certain rev, and then you start making it richer as you go. At the same time, it makes it safer if you make it richer. But you don't want to make it too rich, because then you lose loads of power, and it's just not ideal in any way, shape, or form. From experience, like it's funny because I found like all engines react slightly different to the fuel you put on them. how lean they like to run. I have cases, I can speak about it openly. I usually tune the engines I do between 12 and a half to 13 and a half. 13 and a half is very lean, like for high RPM. I don't tend to use it on like high RPM, this AFR. But I have cases of engines that usually you lean it up and it makes more power. But I have cases that you leaned it up from 12 and didn't make any more. So when things like this happen, you might as well leave it on the safer side rather than just on the side that it's going to make more power. Now the thing is, sometimes on the dyno, you see the difference isn't big. Let's say it's another 1 bhp that you gained. And by the way, this is I'm going to talk works both ways, like up and or down. But sometimes that small difference when I lean it up, when you drive the car, the engine feels so different, And again, you look at it like, it's 2 bhp, it's nothing, cannot feel it, especially top end. But you drive the car, just feel the feel of the car is so different. The engine becomes so much sharper, so much more responsive. This is the thing that comes with it. Of course, in terms of responsiveness of an engine, there's other factors involved, like throttle body size, intake type, the fuel enrichment on injection. There's so many variants that you still have to see in order to get it to the point where you're happy, because you can have a very good a map that is worked really well at wide open throttle, but then the car drives really bad, it's sluggish on the throttle. So that's the thing, is like, this is why to tune a standalone ECU properly takes time. And this is why it's extremely important to tune most of the standalone ECU on the road, not driving it fast, because the fast part, you do it on the dyno, just to have the drivability dial in right, to have the right fuel, the right cam, when you have, of course, vanos like we do on the newer engines, to have the cam timing right, ignition right, to make sure the car doesn't have judder, the off throttle response is there, everything works as it should. This is the way I like to do it. I spend time on the road, driving on the road, make sure it's drivable. This morning I've sent a video to a group that I am on, that it's for our customers only on WhatsApp. And I was cruising on the 119 to the garage. I was in 6 at 1000 RPM, no judder, nothing. The car just pulls from 1000 RPM, no effort, So of course, because the engine has quite a lot of torque down low, but it's the fact that it's that drivable. You can literally drive it in 6 gears, 1000 RPM, no problem at all. It was very icy the floor, so I chose to stay on a high gear, low RPM, which makes the car better to move around without having sideways action and stuff like that. It was like, all I wanted to do is get to work. Conditions were sketchy, so you have to be safe. So this is it. So conclusion of today, the new manifold worked. It's not as good as I wanted it to be, but it is at the same time. It's just on the wrong combination. It's just on the wrong car. But like the fact is, in average, we haven't lost at all. So, but we gained. So we got 10 bhp more at wheels. Peak torque, we lost. I think it was 5 foot-pounds. Yeah, we lost 5 foot-pounds peak torque. It's not a big deal. It's not, oh my God, like before when we compare the other manifold, it was quite a lot more. 13 pounds it was before to 5 now, so we have. And generally, I know, like with the other manifold I'm doing next, it's not going to have any loss. And the thing is, also the thing that probably will happen, it will make more power because it will carry more torque through. So this is like when it's important to dimension things right. The internal diameter, the length. The length is right. This is the only reason why we haven't lost as much torque. If you look at this, so the intake manifold at the moment has 30% bigger area inside than the original manifold. and we only lost 5 foot-pounds of torque. Usually you see the torque will disappear completely like it happened on the other manifold. But because manifold has the right length, it still works. It's not perfect, but still works well. So I know if I make one with a smaller internal diameter, I will match the torque easily, so, or probably even make more. We don't know. It's something that I have to try, and generally I want to do it now. It's something I really want to get done, and so I can see the numbers adding up to make this combination right. But my genuine opinion is this combination the car has, the V1, it's really made to work on the standard intake manifold. What LSD do you usually run on your 318IS? My 318IS, my personal one, I used to have a 188 LSD from an M3 3-liter. I used to have a different ratio on it, a 364. Then oh my God, 5.4. That's just pointless. 4.44. I tried and I hated it. Absolutely hated. I don't understand why people do it. Unless you have like a proper gearbox. On the BMW gearbox, it's completely pointless. So that's the thing. Going back to it is on the manifolds, we have to make, it's like the exhaust side as well. Exhaust side, I have done a chart, which I might post it. I don't know. I'm going to think about it because it took me some time to work it all out. I've done a chart with the ideal primary diameter for peak torque. So you can choose, the thing. So I've done that chart because I had so many numbers in my head. And like, I didn't know when I was making the exhaust manifold for the 119, I didn't know like where I wanted to go with it. And I had to really think about it and put everything in front of me and see, right, this is what I'm going to do. This is the number I'm going to go for. So it tells you like of course, if everything is done right, this is okay. So remember, this is for reference, the table. Peak torque at this number. And so I that's where I pointed it to, because that's where I want to have the peak torque. At the moment, I don't have the cams yet to do that, or the head to do that. So the manifold I have at the moment, the way it's done is to have peak torque at around 5,900 RPM. As you guys, I just told you earlier, so I'm still 1,400 RPM to get there. And this is all on the camshaft duration. This camshaft, as I said, is only 217 degree at 1 mil of lift. It's very mild. It's perfect for a road engine. Like our next cam with fitting is 240 at 1 mil, which is quite a big difference. And this should marry perfectly with this setup. The thing is, the cams we have only work with our heads, though they don't work with like a V1 head. V1 is a bolt-on to an N45 engine. You can have a 116. The V1 works with all the standard components. We don't change the valves, nothing. It's the original valve train. With when you go to like the V3 head, everything is different. You have the thing is it allows you to explore a lot more on the engine. Like on a standard engine with a standard valve train. And trust me, the valves is not the only limitation it has. You cannot really go more than 10 mil of lift, and 10 mil is already pushing it. It's really pushing it. This is what the V1 cams have as a lift, but because they don't ride that high, it's not that much of a problem. I could make some cam with moderation at same lift. I don't think it would be a good idea though. So this is the reason why I'm not doing it. I think this works well as it is. So the V1, we've seen it, it makes 180 bhp, and you got to look at it and look at it properly, because you start with a car that has just over 80 bhp at wheels, you end up with a car that has 150 bhp at wheels. It's very, very different. Torque goes from 110 foot-pounds they have standard to 165, 168. It's a massive gain. It is a massive gain. So it works well. It's a good combo. The car will be much quicker. It's uncomparable. And then from there, it's just the start. You then evolve furthermore. Then when you go, if you go to the bigger heads, when you start using our heads, then you can start using everything that we do for the heads. And then it's when you really start having the power coming out. It's when the power starts showing out. So as I said, when I've done the engine, when I built it, it made really good numbers out of the box because it was built it with everything in mind to work with each other. We had an exhaust manifold that worked well with it. We had a good like cam and a good head for what it had. But for more than what we have, it's not enough. So this is when you need to add more things into it. You know, start adding more parts into it. So anyway, I'm going to let you guys go now. It's my time to stay offline, and well, I hope you enjoy the video. I'm going to try to bring some more content on a more regular base. As soon as I have new things to show or things like that, or just try to do question and answer type of videos. Then we can. I think it's easier for us to talk about it like and just create content. Because like now I just had 2 people asking questions, which I really appreciate. But there's you guys are more interested on learning from what I'm saying than asking questions. You can do, because now the other thing is I do these videos so I don't have to spend time telling people. Like I have a lot of people ask me for advice, but I only have so much time in a day, and it's hard for me to stop working to give people advice. The other thing is I avoid giving advice nowadays purely because if you don't understand right, or you do something that is not quite the way I meant to do, you can have a completely different result from what you should have, and that can put me on a bad situation, which I don't want to be. So I don't want to do that. So I rather we come here, like you guys can ask the questions. I'll tell you. Then if it's something I don't think it's something I should do, I will probably say I cannot help, or it just doesn't mean I cannot do it. But it's one of those. We have to stay safe, stay on the safe area, not really go out, because like even doing the videos, I'm putting close to an hour on this video, and at the end of the day, I do it for the love of it, nothing else. So, and the thing is, I really appreciate the fact you guys are there and stayed in. So, as I said, I'm going to try to do it more often. Leave some feedback on these videos, and if you guys want, on the comments, just write a subject you would like for me to talk about. Like there's so much thing we can talk about. It's not only the engines, not only M42s, M44s, M50, not only BMW engines. I've done other engines, all sorts, like GAP, other European, like French, Italian. I've tuned quite a lot of cars in the past, so you guys can ask the questions. I'm not saying I know it all. I don't, far from it, but I still have a fair amount of knowledge from other builds I got involved on. So anyway, guys, great to have you guys there. I hope you have a nice evening. Let me know on the comments what sort of questions or like start asking questions. I can go through the questions and answer on the following video. If you guys want, just tell me like often you would like to see these type of videos, and I can try to start bringing some content. I can talk about the builds we do on the garage, our other builds, like the things, our projects from the garage, like our race cars, our Porsche, both of them. It's 2 of them. Like it's just, you guys can ask whatever you want about it. We will tell you. Like we now have the 116 is where it is. We are happy with it. It's not where we want it to be yet, but we got race season is going to start in April. So we now have the plan of start working back on our race cars. So I'll have to park the 119 for a bit and just focus on getting the race cars back in. Now, one of our race cars that I'm going to start putting development on, I think it's of good interest to some people because it's the N52 engine, which is the 3-liter new generation double vanos and all sorts, like the 268 or 270 bhp version, which we are developing. We already have valve train, conrods, parts available for the engine. We're going to put an engine together and then start squeezing power out of it. Point is, IO300 AS, for how much? For how much what? This is a question. For how much? For how much I would like to know about Porsche. I really don't know much about. Oh, okay, I got you. No, but it's it's not only for you; it's for more people that might join in, just to have diversity. And like I think, the more different thing we talk about, the more general knowledge we have. And then the good thing about that is there's less misconception and there's more understanding. The thing I really struggle to let slide is like when people have a massive misconception and they don't understand, or they don't even try to understand why it might be a misconception. They don't really have the full background of what they're talking, and they really believe in it. I'm really not like that because I'm too curious. If something does, if the car goes left, I want to know why does it go left when I turn the wheel? Why do I turn the wheel and why do I turn left and it goes left? Why doesn't it go right? Of course, this is just a crazy way of putting it, but it's the truth. As I'm very curious, and I think that's what brought me to the level I am. Being curious was good because it allowed me to learn more about how an engine work and the dynamics and where the power can be made. So, and like the longer it pass, the easier I find to make power. But the problem is, it's easier for me to make it. It's not any cheaper. So I still have a budget that I have to stick to. Otherwise, I'll bankrupt the business just to make a crazy engine. It's not the way I work. I rather do the thing slowly, and I think doing it slowly, I learn more about it as well, which is it's a win-win, to be honest. So I don't have unlimited budget. Even if I did, I still work the same way, I think, because it's more fun, because you get to experience things in stages, and you see the things growing, taking shape. I think it's far more satisfying. I got plenty of questions. I'll save them for the comments on next videos. So thanks for your time as usual. No problem, Josh. So don't forget, questions on the comment section. And one thing I really need your feedback is how long, like what's the interval you would like to see me doing videos? Every other day, once a week, twice a week, just put it on there, and I can start doing it. But of course, I don't want to be doing videos. For example, if you say, oh, you should do one every other day or 3 times a week, I don't want to be doing it just to be on a video talking to myself. You guys need to get involved on it, because otherwise it doesn't work. Do you have a price list for your parts online? It's not online. It's on our WhatsApp. I can answer to you. So I'm going to leave our WhatsApp number. We got the catalog in there. It doesn't have everything we do. It's very hard to put everything in. And remember, it's me putting it on. It cannot be anyone else, because most people don't understand what things are. It's very hard. So there are certain things that are not there, but you guys can ask for it. Sorry, guys. I'm not good at multitasking. I'm horrendous. Oh my god. Okay, I got a catalog on WhatsApp, so that's it. Probably twice a week, but really it's more to have a schedule to organize in advance. Sometimes I receive notification and live finish since. Well, yeah, this is the thing. I want to do it on a time that it works for everyone. At the moment it's random because I just tend to go on like to think is an hour that people are going to be in, people are not. So it's just one of those. I think I have to be guided by you guys. You guys are my audience, okay? So I will let you guys decide. Whatever works with you. It's what's going. I'll make it work with me. I'll arrange myself around it because I'm only one. I cannot guess what you guys are doing or what your plans are. You can all do as you like, as you feel like, but documenting the topics in description comments will be helpful sometimes. Yeah, you see, I'm still new to this YouTube thing. I don't know how to deal with it that well. I try to put it on the description time. What I'm going to do is put the description on the video I'm going to be talking about. But now the thing is, if you guys are asking the questions, I'm just going to put the thing is it's related to the questions asked on this other video. So then I can bring some more into the table to talk about other areas. You know, I have to start writing down the things I really want to the information I want to give you, so I don't forget, because it's quite a lot to have on memory. And I'm going to try to have like a whiteboard, so I can also do write some things down. You guys can see like what's the science, the math behind it, how you calculate certain things. This is good. It's general knowledge. And some people really like things like this. Some other people think it's boring. They just want to get on and press the throttle, and there we go into the distance. That's it. So, as I said, I let you guys decide. I'm going to wait for your comments to turn up on this video with the questions. So again, it's ask the questions and tell me like what's the best time schedule for you, and I will work out like a time that I think it's the best for everyone. So we post the questions under this video before next live. Yes, exactly. So if you do that, even like, let's say you just thought about something, what I'm going to do is next video, I'm going to be answering those questions. And then we can also, the thing is, I'm answering a question that my answer might bring another question. If you are watching the video, you can answer it straight away. So I think this is good. Good cam for Turbo M44. This is a good one. It's an area I have to cover with you guys. A good cam NA is a good cam for turbo, full stop. You got to think, whatever the car does NA, the turbo is just going to multiply it. So if the car does 200 bhp at atmospheric pressure, we all know atmospheric pressure is close to 1 bar. If you double that, which you make the total pressure of 2 bar, it's going to make double the power. It's going to make 400 bhp. As simple as that. They replicate the lines completely. I did spend quite a lot of time watching someone that I really have some. The guy means quite a bit to me on this world in what he does and the achievements he has done and how much testing he has done. It's crazy. It is crazy how much he has done in testing, and I've seen him doing turbos, and it's over and over and over again. It's always the case. Whatever the car does in A, on turbo just multiplies it. You know, it just if it's at 1 bar of boost or 14 psi, it will make exactly double of what it's done at the atmospheric pressure. Now, this is if the exhaust is rightly dimensioned for the thing, and everything is on the right side of the scale. So just stay tuned, guys. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the questions. Like I left on this, there's a comment that I left on this video. If you guys want to see our catalog, it's on WhatsApp. There's the number there for you guys to go. You can go there and check catalog. If you guys cannot find it, just send me a text or just write catalog. I'll try to send you the full catalog straight away. I have so many questions about turbo builds. I'll be sure to prepare them for next video. Yeah, write a book. And probably it's going to be a video just me and you chatting away. That will be fun. At least it's things to talk about, you know. Well, guys, it's now close to an hour of video, and it's definitely my time to say goodbye. Okay. Thank you guys for being there. Thank you for all the questioning. I'll see you on the next video. which I don't know yet when it's going to be. It all depends on you. Have a nice evening and stay safe. Thank you. Bye bye.